Session prior to the start of this meeting. Okay. I will call to order this College Township Council regular meeting for Wednesday, December 6th, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, is there any public open discussion for items not on the agenda? Anyone in the audience or online? Okay. Moving on, council, does anyone wish to add an agenda item to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, moving on. So special presentations. From the Zoning Hearing Board, Ben Eltz. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ben Eltz. I'm from Chairman of the Zoning Hearing Board here in College Township. I've been asked to give a quick update on the function of the Zoning Hearing Board and our recent activities. So for those of you not familiar with the Zoning Hearing Board, there's 5 of us Zoning Hearing Board members appointed by Council on rotating terms. I think they're 3-year rotating terms. And then we also have a solicitor that we engage that works for the Zoning Hearing Board that's separate from the solicitor for the township. And Susan Hetzel also supports us as the Zoning Hearing Secretary. So what our function is to kind of be a hearing board for residents who feel that the ordinances have been applied in an unfair way or read in an unfair way against the residents, or if they're asking for relief because they feel there's something special about their property that the zoning ordinances shouldn't apply to. So we're what is called a quasi-judicial board. So our hearings look very much like a court hearing with a stenographer, and it's handled pretty formally. And then depending on the decision of the hearing board, those decisions can be appealed through the court system after the zoning hearing board hears that. We have a great group, the 5 people on the zoning hearing board, lots of tenured people that have been doing this for a while. We also have a former council member and great support through the solicitor who's been with us at least since the time that I've been there was about 10 years. And then Susan, which I'm sure you guys know, she's amazing and does an awesome job for us. So as far as recent cases, Zoning Hearing Board is the best place to volunteer because there's not much commitment. Usually each year we have 2 or 3 hearings plus a reorg meeting. This year we only had 1 hearing, and that was regarding Aspen Heights, and there was a variance request for some landscaping. That variance request was denied because the hearing board felt what the developer wanted to do could be done within the current ordinances and a variance wasn't needed. So, it's not just by luck that we have a low number of hearings. It's good work. It's 2 things. One is good work of the zoning officer here in College Township by consistently applying the ordinances and communicating well. But then second is the zoning hearing board not willy-nilly granting variances to everyone that asks for it. You'll see a lot of townships have 30, 40 hearings a year because anybody that wants a variance on a sign ordinance comes in and asks for it, and the zoning hearing board says sure, and everybody just knows it's kind of an open revolving door. So the hearing board has been pretty good about following the ordinances and not willy-nilly granting variances. So I think that's all I have, but happy to answer any questions that you may have about the group or what we do.
Okay, thanks. We'll start out with you, Eric. Questions, comments?
The solicitor's been there quite some time, much longer than the 10 years. Yep. And I'm glad the second point is I'm really glad you brought up what you believe is the reason you only get a couple of hearings a year, because I think you're spot on. And I'm just glad you brought that up, and I want to draw attention to that because I think the effort by staff and the zoning hearing board, flies under the radar and is underappreciated because I think the best thing you noted was the comparison to other municipalities.
Right.
So good job, thank you.
Anthony?
No, again, I'll just echo what Eric said. Thank you.
Rich?
No, I agree. My first assignment was actually on the zoning hearing board, which at the time I thought I was being penalized or something like that. And now get on council and I'm like, wow, that was an important gig and everything. But I will say that in my year and a half, 2 years on there, I only did 2 reorgs. So you're up on me. But as Eric pointed out, it is different than most municipalities. And I think the other element of it is that we try to eliminate the gray areas that a lot of times lead to zoning hearing boards and everything.
And that's us, in conjunction with staff.
Yeah, it's staff and councils well before us and everything. But bottom line, it's a team effort that's that's keeping us from doing that, because it isn't easy. As you said, quasi-judicial costs, time, everything like that, just to end up right back where we end up with. So greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eltz, very informative.
Thanks for what you guys do.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to plans. So P1 is the Umberger Rockenbeck Clearwater Conservancy final subdivision of 110 Old Hauserville Road.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Brian. I'm with HRG. I'm here to present for the Clearwater Conservancy Umberger Rockenbeck 2-lot subdivision in Hauserville. We're proposing 2 lots. One is an existing house, existing dwelling, and the other lot is going to be remained in conservancy with Clearwater. I think, as discussed in the Planning Commission meeting, there were 4 waivers we were looking at. One being on Old Hauserville Road, waiving the additional 8.5-foot right-of-way. And another waiver would be for the septic, for the existing dwelling, and for the vacant lot, which is in floodplain. Not a whole lot going for it.
Sir, before you get too far into it, I'll just ask staff, I was remiss if they had anything they wanted to add to the plan prior before you get a little bit more.
I did have just a brief presentation, if you don't mind. So just an introduction, as you noted, that this is the Rockenbeck property. Its site address is 110 Old Hauserville Road. The subdivision is of 2.68 acres, dividing into 2 lots. 9.95 acres will contain an existing dwelling and a garage, and then the rest of the 1.72 acres will be sold to, with the intent to be sold to Clearwater. The Planning Commission staff reviewed this plan with comments back and forth with HRG. We did our sidewalk prioritization matrices, and spoke with Clearwater about those and the importance of the sidewalk there in that one location. When the Planning Commission met with this, they had the motion sheet in front of them. They changed the motion a little bit, but they did recommend approval of the waivers. As for sidewalks, there is one proposed along Old Hauserville Road and one proposed along Hauserville Road. They are requesting an actual waiver from Old Hauserville and requesting a deferral for up to 2 years for the sidewalk along Hauserville Road. And they were okay with the rest of the waivers as he was just getting into.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Thanks, Dustin.
I think she pretty much covered it there. I really don't have any more to add.
All right. Yeah, so we'll go into questions and comments from council. Anthony, you want to lead us out?
So with the sidewalk waiver, in the motion on number 6 and 7, I think, so 7, if I read 7, it's saying the deferral of lot 2, and we're saying lot 1 RR and lot 2. I'm reading it as if they're combined. Is that not the case? Am I reading it incorrectly, I should say?
Well, the waiver would be for both lots.
so then it wouldn't be a deferral. That's
Well,
what-
no, the,
Lot 1 RR and Lot 2 both front Old Hauserville Road.
Correct,
But only
that's-
Lot 2 fronts Hauserville Road.
okay. Okay, and on the matrix, it was fine, because I mean, I see value in the one, but,
Yeah, the matrix, the first one for Old Hauserville scored a 6, which anything 7 or less is considered a little bit, more, you consider it more for a waiver if it's under 7, which we talked with the Planning Commission about, and the Hauserville Road scored 14.
okay. And just, again, so if it falls under the matrix, that's fine. And I'll say, as a new member back to council, does that matrix incorporate, so I mean, obviously, from the Conservancy standpoint, I understand conservation, but then it's also to encourage folks to come there. And, I mean, a path to get there, I guess. Does
Yeah,
it take that into consideration?
The Planning Commission did talk to them briefly about alternatives that they could, because that's written into the ordinance too. If you want to request a waiver or a deferral, you could consider some alternatives. So Clearwater did look into some other paths just inside their property.
yeah, it's likely that the larger parcel at some point in the future, Clearwater also owns the property on the other side of Old Hauserville Road. And at some point in the future, that's getting developed. It has the old farmhouse and barn on it, where I think it's become some kind of a center. And at that point, there will be paths, and I imagine it'll include the larger parcel, not the smaller one. But they had presented some ideas early on that, yeah, there's going to be something done there at some point in the future.
No, thank you. I mean, that was the only question and concern I had, but thank you.
I just had a question to your comment. So am I understanding that since they own the other side of Old Hauserville Road, that if there was eventually a sidewalk needed, they could probably put it over there? Is that what we're saying?
I would imagine that once that gets developed, there will be some parking there.
Okay.
Something will be done.
Okay.
Which will provide us another opportunity to discuss.
That's how I
sidewalks.
understand it.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions to Anthony's comments, or for staff, or you want to wait your turn?
I'm good, thank
All
you.
right, Rich?
No, I think I understand everything that's going on. Again, I would like to see internal alternatives be considered for that, and I hope that's being looked at. For the 2-year deferral, I would like to see that be until developed or not to exceed 2 years, just in case it gets developed sooner.
Okay,
Then that would trigger that.
all right.
But other than that, I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I'll just ask my question, just to make sure. So the bigger lot, right, that's the one, the triangle is the small one, right? So the bigger one's down at the bottom, right? And so that does not abut up against Townsville Road at all, right? That's another lot coming in?
Yeah,
There's
are
a-
you referring
is
to
that-
this area here?
Yeah,
Yeah, those are two separate lots. This lot here is
Okay.
one RR, and then
Gotcha.
this line here separates.
yeah. So the one that's getting the waiver only goes along Old Hauserville Road?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, it would just, that's where it would involve both lots, right up along through here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric?
Get lost in all of this, in part because of our confusion when we saw it as a sketch plan, or didn't we saw
Oh,
it?
yeah, that.
What a wonderful project this is. I mean, kudos to Clearwater. I think maybe we said this the last time, but I just want to repeat it again, that this is wonderful. This is a wonderful opportunity, and what they're doing is much appreciated. Regarding the considered motion, I think, just to confirm, Lindsay, the Planning Commission supports the approval of the sidewalk waiver along Old Hauserville and the deferral. They're the ones who came up with the 2 years? for the other one?
Well, the 2 years was in the ordinance, so I think that's what they first proposed.
Okay, in the
planning-
matrix?
Yes.
Okay.
The planning commission the vote was 4-1.
Do you recall what the objection was from the one person? Was it on the sidewalk or was it something else? Did they
I think
say?
if I may, I think his objection was the 2 years. I think he
Okay.
wanted to.
So Rich's
Bob,
suggestion,
do you remember? We got a planning commission rep.
Well, actually.
Put you on the spot,
yeah,
Bob.
I'm sorry, I don't. I think that the one negative came about because we wanted to see more development plans, not so much the sidewalk issue. Is that clear?
Yeah.
okay, well, it's, yeah, except it's just a subdivision.
Yeah, I think.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And we understood that. That's why our lenience towards sidewalks, which you know we're pretty strong on,
Right,
we gave up on for further plans being developed.
yeah.
Okay.
And then, just a comment, I'm really glad to hear that that's how our matrix is working out, because there is a huge difference between Old Houserville Road and New Houserville Road. And I was around when Old Houserville Road was the only road. And really, right now, I had to get that in there, so.
Yeah.
So was Rich. It's really a driveway. It's like a shared driveway, I mean, the amount of traffic on there. So in essence, Old Houserville can serve as a sidewalk until such time that something is driving traffic back there. So it's encouraging to see that our matrix and using it is actually squaring up with, the eyeball test. So I have no other questions, and I support the staff recommendations and the motions with Rich's edit.
Staff, anything else to add? Brian, anything you want to say, final words?
Nope.
Okay.
Good.
And we have a suggested motion with Rich's addition. I don't know if you want to take a stab at it, Rich?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I'd recommend council approve the Juliet A. Umbarger and Margaret E. Rockenbach final subdivision plan dated October 20th, 2023, and last revised November 8th, 2023, subject to the following conditions. Within 90 days from the date of approval by council, all conditions must be satisfied, final signatures must be obtained, and the plan must be recorded with the Center County Recorder of Deeds Office. Failure to meet the 90-day recordation time requirement will render the plan null and void. 2, pay all outstanding review fees. 3, address to the satisfaction of the township engineer any outstanding plan review comments from staff. 4, fully comply with College Township Code Section 180-12. Number 5, approve requested waiver of 180-16B sub 2 for additional 8.5 feet right-of-way along the length of Old Houserville Road due to an existing dwelling and garage would fall within the portion of additional right-of-way. 6, approval of sidewalk waiver for Lot 1R and Lot 2 for only along Old Houserville Road. Number 7, approval of a deferral of construction of sidewalks for a period not to exceed 2 years or when actual development occurs along Houserville Road for Lot 2. 8, approve the waiver of 180-19B for Lot 2 as this is intended for conservancy purposes, is within the floodplain, and no further septic requirements are anticipated. Should the lot require future sanitary service, the lot owner shall be responsible for satisfying needs at no expense to College Township, including but not limited to on-lot installation or sanitary sewage system extension. Number 9, approve the waiver of 180-19B for Lot 1R, as this lot is presently served with on-lot septic. Should this lot experience septic failure, the lot owner shall be responsible for satisfying the sanitary needs at no expense to College Township, including but not limited to on-lot installation or sanitary sewage system expansion. And finally, 10, all conditions must be accepted in writing within 7 days from the date of the conditional approval letter from the township engineer.
Here a second?
Second.
Okay, let's call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And we have none opposed.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Sir. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to P2. This is Jersey Mike's preliminary final land development plan at 430 Shiloh Road.
All right, Jen is going to get the plan up on the screen. The applicant for this Jersey Mike's is Cedar Cliff Properties. The site address is 430 Shiloh Road, tax parcel 192B67. The zoning district is zoned general commercial, and the proposal is the construction of a 1,500 square foot Jersey Mike's restaurant with a pickup lane and all related infrastructure on a currently vacant lot. So the planning commission did see this. There are no sidewalk waivers requested with this one. Staff took a look and had comments back and forth with Pantera with minimal outstanding comments, along with the, some of those comments include MPDES, traffic impact, of course, is a big one, and PennDOT highway occupancy permits and the DSAME. So we are still waiting for a few things, but we feel that this plan is ready to move forward. And I know Mark Toretti's here in case you have any specific questions from him.
Oh, yeah, everybody likes to ask Mark questions.
No sidewalk waivers though this
Oh,
time, so.
yeah, he doesn't have-
He's not done yet.
Okay, anything else, Lindsay?
That's all,
Staff?
Dustin, thank you.
Lindsay covered pretty much most of it on there. Probably the key thing that she stated was, with our discussions with the planning commission, was this Jersey Mike's is not a drive-through order pickup. It's basically for online orders that they will be coming around the left side of the building there for basically pickups. There's going to be no ordering there, so it's not like it's going to be people waiting to order to pick up their food on there. Other than that, like I said, just working through that site with the orientation of the site and get something that would work for the client that he was happy with, and addressing the township's requirements and their stormwater ordinance. One thing on there, one of the conditions was for the MPDS permit, but this was less than an acre. There was no MPDS requirement on it, but we do have PennDOT comments on the traffic impact study, and pretty much the main thing on that is because I'll explain it here, as you're coming down Shallow Road from I-99 going towards the Better Cotton, to turn left into there, PennDOT has a concern about people who are going in the other direction of Shallow Road and want to turn left onto Trout Road, because it is just a middle turn lane the entire way. So PennDOT is requiring us just to stripe a dedicated left turn lane on Shallow Road into Trout Road, so people won't get confused between the two turn areas. And so we'll be agreeing to do that.
Okay. Start out with you, Rich. Questions, comments?
I assume that this dovetails nicely with the development on the proposed development on the adjoining property?
It does and it doesn't. I mean, there's no direct property connection to it, like we've looked at different ideas that if that would be connected property-wise, we could look at some other options for access and that. But it is different client, different.
Yeah, it's standalone, but
Yes.
it doesn't create an issue for either
No,
the development on the one or the other doesn't create
Yes,
an
correct.
issue for the other. Okay. Pretty straightforward, clean cut. Love the sidewalks. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah, I gotta get better glasses or glasses to start with. The property here is the one that has the sign that says for lease, right? The lot
think so.
between the single-family home and the driveway
Yes,
back to the
correct.
Shuey Farm.
Yeah.
Okay, because when Rich said adjoining, it's gonna be bordered by the home
Yeah.
and,
Then beyond that is
Yeah.
upcoming one, yeah.
okay, so,
Right.
That's why it's not adjoining.
They don't share a property line, but they're in the same neighborhood.
yeah, okay, I got you, sorry. I just had a panic moment there, because, but on that, and this has, first of all, I support the plan. In general, I support the plan, I support the planning commission recommendations. But just out of curiosity, the property's advertised for lease, so I'm assuming that the developer will be developing and leasing the property, not purchasing the
I'm
property?
not positive, but I think that could be the circumstance, but I'm not 100% positive.
Okay, and again, it has no bearing on, I was just curious.
Yeah,
Because you can't miss the sign.
yeah, okay.
And then the gravel lane
Yeah.
that's there now, that is the driveway, will be improved as part of this. And remain a private
Yeah.
access driveway, okay. And even though there's a single-family home to the left, that parcel is zoned commercial.
Yes.
So there's no setbacks or buffers because we're changing zoning districts or anything.
Correct, but I did add some screening that's along there, along that property line, added a little bit evergreen screening along there.
Okay.
For the single-family home.
And I was just curious, because the property owner knows he's sitting on a commercial
Yeah.
property, just because it happens to be a single-family home now,
Yeah.
and then, last question, you touched on traffic study and HOP. Did you get the traffic study? Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying, and
Yeah.
it said that?
That was PennDOT's comments and also the township traffic engineers.
Okay.
Yeah, that was first round comments.
Okay.
So they were very minor.
Yeah.
So it's reasonable to assume that lane is the only thing that would really be required to get the HOP? Or is there something else that you're kind of waiting and watching to see that might come
No,
out?
because that's really the main item on there. PennDOT is very aware of the Shiloh Road developments and look over everything very closely. In reality, this didn't meet the township's requirements for a traffic study. But PennDOT, they have concern about Shiloh Road and what's going on in Shiloh Road. And so they still require us to do one. And so that was done. I mean, they have concern about the access, but
So
they did not,
All right, now I understand.
Yeah.
They requested as part of the HOP process.
yes.
That's why we're not seeing a traffic impact study as part of the land development
Well,
plan.
yeah, the township was given a copy.
Yeah, we're in the loop,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
it wasn't requested by us.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because we're always a little bit nervous, conditionally approving a plan. If
Yeah.
something comes out of traffic impact or HOP, then you got to come back and do, but you're comfortable with,
yeah.
Conversation.
We got basically the first round of review comments, and basically the main thing was about striking that center turn lane as a dedicated turn lane onto Trout Road.
okay, and striping, not
Yeah.
concrete
Correct, yeah,
median
striping.
striping, which we hope people will abide by.
Yeah.
That's what they should have done at Chick-fil-A. Anyways. Where we see how much they pay attention out on North Atherton to the striping and the signage. Go ahead.
Anthony?
No, thanks, Mark. I strongly support the plan. I think everything's in line. But we're talking about, and thank you for no sidewalk waivers, but
Yeah.
since we're talking not necessarily Dovetail,
Yeah.
but in the neighborhood,
Yeah,
where if we go a little further up, it's not necessarily a sidewalk to nowhere anymore.
yes, yeah. Yeah, there's,
You just want to make that point.
I just,
Mark doesn't use that phrase anymore.
I'm sorry.
I'm not allowed to use it anymore. I'll get in trouble here, so.
Sidewalks with less traffic.
There we go.
Yeah. No, we're aware that, there's going to be a lot hopefully occurring out here and along Shiloh Road, where I think in time, probably in the, nearer future than the further away, that, there'll be a connection the whole way along there, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I support this. And I don't have any questions.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah.
Asking for a friend. I know if we approved the land development planning 5 years ago, any idea from the developer on a timeline?
As soon as possible. So,
I'll share that.
I was just texting the traffic engineer before I got on here about how soon he can get that comment responded back, so, yes.
Is that just because a friend likes Jersey Mike's?
Probably.
The biggest thing I think also, just to mention, the planning commission, especially on a smaller site, but, and looking at them, with the wellhead protection ordinance, stormwater is difficult and tricky, and trying to get that to work with a small site. And this still gets to be relatively significant cost on there, but what we were able to do it. It's something that it's very challenging, but I think working with the staff, working with the township engineer, it was able to get something worked out that was approvable.
Okay. All right, we have a recommended motion. Rich made the last one.
No,
This is a little bit longer.
Do it on your friend's behalf.
so I gotta find it here. My scrolling is a bit sluggish.
It's up at the top.
Page one.
This is not going well.
I
got
if I
it.
may, I don't know, I don't want to, on behalf of Eric's friend, I think you frequent that.
He'll be fine with
because you go for walks at Spring Creek Canyon, so that's right.
Hey, I found
on your
it.
way. Oh,
I found it.
Okay, we're back.
Thanks for buying my time. All right. Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the Jersey Mike's preliminary final land development plan dated October 23rd, 2023, and last revised November 13th, 2023, subject to the following 10 conditions. 1, within 90 days from this date of approval by council, all conditions must be satisfied, final signatures must be attained, and the plan must be recorded with the Center County Recorder of Deeds Office. Failure to meet the 90-day recordation time requirement will render the plan null and void. Number 2, pay all outstanding review fees. Number 3, address to the satisfaction of the township engineer any outstanding plan review comments from staff. Are there any?
Now, waiting for the final approval of the TIS.
Okay.
Oh, and we have to determine the contributions by Jersey Mike's towards the
Traffic signals, okay.
Yeah.
4, fully comply with College Township Code Section 180-12. 5, post surety and as approved by the township engineer prior to recordation. 6, provide proof of MPDES approval. 7, provide proof of traffic impact study approval. 8, provide approved PennDOT highway occupancy permit prior to occupancy. 9, record approved DSAME. 10, all conditions must be accepted within writing within 7 days from the date of the conditional approval letter from the township engineer. That's it.
Do you have a second?
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, no. And there are no opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, so we're gonna move into reports, and I guess we'll get, the backup pinch hitter tonight for the manager's report.
I can officially say the assistant manager's report.
Assistant manager.
Just a few things, and these are just minor updates. Dale Summit area plan, just to inform on timeline, staff is finalizing their review of the documents. Actually, we have a meeting tomorrow to talk through that collectively, aiming towards an early 2024 joint meeting of council and PC to kind of kick off this effort, talking about both the small area plan and the form-based code. Next on the list, solar power purchasing agreement. Tentatively, the next working group meeting is for December 13th. At that meeting, contracts are expected to be presented to the working group. And again, looking at their timeline, consideration of action by the municipalities, again, in early 2024. So we'll see where we're at here after the next week. Path to campus. We're anticipating the announcement of grant recipients in early 24 for both grants that we applied for Path to Campus. And I did want to note, we did had a request from a resident in regards to potential for crowdsourcing funds in support of this project. So it's something that we're investigating at the staff level to see what options may exist. Most likely it involves some involvement with something like the Center Foundation or another nonprofit to assist us with that. No update on the casino, and one that's not on here, but just as an FYI, as you'll recall, a couple months ago, we had a discussion about spin bike and left it with the do nothing alternative. Since then, I have had contact from both Penn State and spin bike. So early 24, I'm anticipating they will be bringing some thoughts back before council for the potential of an expansion into College Township. So stay tuned on that one.
Awesome. Questions or comments for the assistant manager? Anyone? I look forward to riding a sport bike to a football game, hopefully. 2024.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. All right.
To you riding it to the football game.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, COG Regional County Liaison Reports. Eric, you had CCMPO.
I did.
Any comments, anything different from the report?
Just a couple things I want to point out on the report. First of all, because this is such a high-profile project, I just wanted to read the couple of sentences in my report that pertain to the State College Area Connector project. Of note in the report, PennDOT will hold public involvement meetings in the spring or early summer of 2024, where the alternatives and their impacts will be shared as refined alignments. Okay? Then, in late 2024, early 2025, another round of public meetings will be held to present the recommended preferred alternative, which will be one of the refined alignments. So we are at least a year and 2 rounds of public comment away from a recommended alignment. I know there's some confusion over that, but this is an extraordinarily deliberate and involved process by PennDOT, and that's where that is at. So the couple of other notes, Mike referenced the 2 grants that the township has applied for, and one of them is the set-aside, and that scored very well. There were 2 submitted in the county, and the process requires the MPO to rank them or rate them, and our project rated quite well, which is not a surprise given the criteria for rating that it met. So that bodes well for the competitive nature of the grant, I think. And then I just want to make sure that it's clear here on the strategic plan votes that the coordinating committee took. We made 2 bylaw changes. The first is to extend the terms to 4 years and stagger them, as opposed to everybody terming out every 2 years. And I think Mike has some experience in this. You know, it takes you a year just to come up to speed on all the acronyms. We have a 12-year plan. We have a 4-year tip that constantly moves. So you're always planning in that 2, 4, 12-year window. So I think that's really important. So that everybody doesn't term off in 4 years, the implementation has been staggered. So the Center Region appointees will be appointed up for another 2 years, county officials for 3, rurals for 4, so that every year a fourth of the MPO turns over, and those appointees will be for 4 years. The idea is that it'll provide a bit more continuity, I think. And the other bylaw was to establish a project committee to help us evaluate and vet projects that we will be pursuing through the additional discretionary money that's available from the bill legislation. That's it.
Okay. So I was supposed to have an HR meeting today, but we ended up not having quorum. So we will not have a December meeting. And then the executive is after the fact of the general forum, so there's nothing to report there. And Rich, did you have anything?
I am heartbroken to say nothing other than Whitehall Road Park meetings.
Okay. Anthony?
Nothing.
All right. Okay. So we will move then on to staff PC and other committee reports. Let's lead out with PC, Mr. Hoffman. We received a report, thank you. Do you wish to make any points of clarification or add?
Well, good evening. I wanted to make a note about the Jersey Mike's. I don't know if it went through, but they used underground tanks to satisfy their stormwater management. it's a very creative kind of way to go about it. I know they were forced a bit because of the size of the property, but I'd like to see more of that, to use less upper land to try to take care of it. So I think they should be complimented. I apologize for the vote on the subdivision. That missed me. I thought we all approved it, but there was one, and I think it was because of the idea that they're going to be coming back with land development plans, and it was a little bit concerning we didn't get enough information about what the future is, but I could be wrong on that. Other than that, the new business, of course, was the workforce housing remand, and I talked to the chairperson to make sure we were both on the same page, and staff, actually, and we worked that out. So I think what's in front of you is a clear reflection of our concerns or comments back to council.
Okay.
Other than that, everything's fine.
Yeah, and questions received, and we'll get back to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
I expect. Thanks.
Questions for Mr. Hoffman?
He, actually, the underground he was referring to, was that required because of the proximity to the wellhead? Or was that just a...
No, I think, well, I can't speak for the engineer, but I thought it was because they didn't have enough land to
Okay.
accomplish that.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I
More
mean,
to
it's a
do with the
very
size of-
irregular piece of land.
No, you're correct, Bob. Basically, they didn't have enough area to put a detention basin in. Once you get your side slopes and all that, it would have taken up a big chunk. Now, because it is in the wellhead protection, there will not be any infiltration at that underground facility. It'll be what's called extended release. So, which is another very good way of dealing with water. So, yeah, Bob's right. They were very innovative on how to handle that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Staff, did you have anything else?
The only other comment is thank you for the banquet. I think it was well run,
Yeah.
well organized, and it was
Yeah,
a great time.
Yeah, thank you.
Well-dressed man is sitting over there at council.
Right there, Mr. Bob Hoffman.
All right, so DEIB, any report on that?
Sure, just a couple notes. Hanukkah begins tomorrow at nightfall, and this is not necessarily falls under DEIB, but just a note, Sustainable Communities Collaborative is hosting a Campus Community Expo tomorrow, 5 to 7 at State College Municipal Building.
Okay. Anything else for that?
No.
All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. So this evening's consent agenda consists of the following. CA1 are minutes approval of A, the November 14th, 2023 special budget work session. B, the November 16th, 2023 regular meeting. CA2 is correspondence and receipt and approval of the following. A is an email from Daniel Materna dated November 15th, 2023 regarding the casino. B is another email from Daniel Materna dated November 16th, 2023 regarding the casino. C is a letter from First Night State College dated November 21st, 2023 regarding thank you for sponsorship of the First Night State College ice sculpture. D is a Millbrook Marsh Nature Center Phase 2 Spring Creek Education Building and Welcome Pavilion Project Sidewalk Installation. CA3 is the approval of A, the Project 23-16 Traffic Signal Replacement Bid Award to Kaharchik Construction. Did I get that right?
You got that.
All right. Inc. in the amount of $164,500. Do any members of council wish to pull any of the items?
CA2D.
CA2D. Any other items? Okay. Anyone wish to make a motion excluding D, CA2D?
Move to approve the consent agenda less CA2D.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. Okay, let's talk about D.
Yeah, to me, this is a slam dunk. It seems like we would welcome people to put concrete.
Concrete.
Sidewalk
The long run's a better product, so.
Yeah, especially with the fiberglass, which I think is the new PennDOT spec now. I know it's at least some township spec. Is the only reason it's before us is the broom finish? Is that?
No, it's the weather. The contractor did not get the path.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I understand that.
Oh.
That it's just an FYI that because they ran out of season, they got to do concrete instead of waiting until the spring.
Yes, correct.
Because their alternative would be to ask to come back and do it in the spring.
Yeah, so they have to sit and have it bonded all winter, whereas they can go ahead and get it done. It's at the same price. You can't beat it.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Okay.
Am I correct that there's also some grading that changed slightly to facilitate it as the overall installation of the sidewalk as well?
Not as a result of the change to concrete, but they went around a tree instead of getting closer to the tree. So there is one extra little wave in it. And if anything, that makes it more artistic.
So was this a requirement that they had to notify us, or it was just a nice to do?
It differs from the plan, so
Yeah.
typically on something like this, we would deal with that as a
Minor.
note on an as-built, but they gave us a heads up, this is what's going on. Do you, township, agree that this is a good idea? And then Jerry looked at it and said, yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion to approve D.
So moved.
So seconded.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We're moving on to no old business, and we're gonna get new business. New business one is the CNET closed captioning.
All right.
Back to you again, Mike.
Yeah, so this is a short and relatively sweet one. CNET has reached out to us about the opportunity to provide closed captioning on our CNET online broadcasts. Honestly, I don't see any drawbacks to this from a staff perspective. It provides an opportunity for us to address any potential ADA issues associated with the broadcast, and does so at a very reasonable cost. Based on the estimated cost related to our past historic records of numbers of council and PC meetings, CNET has estimated our cost at just a little over $1,600 to provide closed captioning. As is noted in the manager's memorandum, he strongly recommends council consider this.
Okay. Questions, comments, Rich?
Nope, it's in line with inclusivity.
Anthony?
I agree.
Mr. Chair, I recommend, or I move the council authorize the additional cost of captioning both council and PC meetings beginning in 2024. Get the motion, and I have a question.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Would the motion as provided also cover any other events that the township sponsors?
As you've prepared the motion, it just says council and
Yeah.
PC.
Then
If you'd like to broaden it, you can certainly.
How often do we do that? I know there was just talk last year of covering sponsoring.
Spring Creek.
Yeah, occasionally, not, yeah, it kind of rotates who sponsors Spring Creek.
Is it,
I think we do one a year, right?
the quote is just for those two, right?
Right.
Okay, we could always
I'm sure a quick discussion with Cindy and we could
make another, okay.
get a quick proposal on that.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm fine. Just planting the seed that may come up during the year.
Okay, so we'll call a question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, not opposed. All right, new business number 2, Center Region Trash Contract. I guess Mike, we're leading this one out again.
Sure, I'll kick off here. I did want to acknowledge we have Shelley Mado and Mike, I'm going to butcher your last name, Tilka?
You got it.
Awesome. If you have not had the opportunity, Mike Tilka is the new Center Region Planning Agency Director, and you've been on board now, how long, Mike?
2 weeks.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Shelley and Mike are both here to hear council's concerns and address any questions that come up as part of this agenda item. So just kind of walking through the agenda memo as prepared by our township manager, Adam Brumbaugh. To note, our current COG waste management contract for residential refuse and recycling expires March 31 of 2025. This contract covers approximately 16,200 properties in Benner, College, Ferguson, Harris, and Patton Townships. As you'll know from the most recent COG General Forum meeting, members did approve a motion authorizing CRPA to advertise the request for proposals for their regional refuse and recycling contract. As Adam goes on to explain here, what's noted is there are some changes to the approach of our regional refuse and recycling, and in particular, he notes there are some substantive changes to over the next 5 years to collection, including sidearm collection vehicles and the use of specialized containers. But the one that he notes in particular is the RFP provides for some private streets and lanes currently being served under the existing collection contract to be excluded from similar service under the new contract. Adam notes, while that's still to be determined as to which streets are private streets in College Township that would include, it should come as no surprise, we've received a significant number of calls over the last winter related to the service and lack of collection during the winter months. The concern is that in formalizing the exclusion of certain private streets and lanes within the new contract, this may ultimately require the impacted residents to pay for substantially degraded service over what is provided now. As council is aware, the refuse and recycling program is not voluntary, and all residential properties must participate in the program. As he notes, in other words, all are required to pay for trash collection through the COG contract. To drastically modify service previously received and paid for by excluding certain private streets and lanes with no recourse but to pay for perceived or real reductions in that service is troublesome and problematic. He goes on to note that as part of this agenda packet, we provided both the RFP as well as a GIS mapping link for the private streets and lanes in College Township that would be under consideration for exclusion. And just wanted to put this in front of council for your discussion and obviously provide an opportunity for Shelley and Mike to hear the concerns and offer some explanations to any questions that may come forward. So with that, I will stop and.
Yeah, Shelley, Mike, if you want to approach, I think our rep probably wants to say something.
Sure. I'm just going to preface it in the sense that, so understanding and working on this, it's an RFP. And so being on the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee when we were reviewing these things, and along with the consultants' recommendations. So a lot of these were the consultants' recommendations, and Shelley, you can add or correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding, is with having these recommendations, it'll encourage more bids to come in. But these recommendations aren't necessarily set in stone per se, because there is language in the contract that with, the hauler, the proposed hauler working with.
In the RFP.
Correct, in the RFP, I'm sorry, yes, thanks for correcting me. Working with COG, it's a big difference now, thank you for correcting me. Working with the COG, or based on that, to identify those lanes that may be included or excluded, or have a different rate of service, if you will. So I just want to preface it with that and that understanding, but I also want to know, because these concerns were, brought up at the CAS meetings and so forth, but I also want to bring up, because one of the other things I'll say I mainly had more of a concern with overall is, and Shelley, I've noted this, there's going to be a lot of education involved to the residents throughout the community with the differences or the changes in this contract, whether it be the private lanes, whether it be bulk waste, whether it be the size containers and so forth. And understanding there's a year to educate the residents, I don't think there's a plan yet in place to address that. Though we have a year, it may whittle down. And you can correct me there, or you can go, if you have something in mind. I hadn't heard it at the committee, and if I missed it, I'm sorry. But I just wanted to preface all that in general, where I'll say my main concern is, because I think would be the education as we go forward, because understanding we are fielding a lot of calls here in College Township, and I think it's more so from service perspective as opposed to maybe what may be cut out or may not be cut out.
Okay.
I'll just say the RFP, the specification section, which is section 3, does require whoever the hauler is that gets the contract to create a brochure that we would approve, and that gets disseminated to every resident, either with the carts or prior to the carts, but not after. And that's one piece of our education plan, and it's required in the RFP that they do that. That it specifies where they place their refuse can or refuse container, that all of that's in that brochure. So we have started, it's right in the RFP that they have to provide that brochure to every resident and extra copies to every township. So we have started that process. I'll just go back to the private lanes. In our current contract, the language is vague. It says, some of the residences charged an at-door fee of $10 per month are on private lanes. When this contract began in 2020, the contract hauler, which was then Advanced Disposal, determined themselves that that meant they could charge every resident on every private lane $10 a month. When we discovered that they had started to move all these people to this extra fee, we told them we don't interpret it that way. And we met with them, they interpreted it one way, we interpreted it another. We were at the point of thinking about how to move towards mediation on this when the pandemic happened. Then they were acquired by Waste Management. So the issue sort of got sidelined. My concern, and the concern of the consultant, was that vague language could again lead to a place where a lot of people were forced to pay this extra fee just because they live in a private lane. And some of them are paying that. I've tried to sort of do some digging in the data that's available to me, which isn't everything. I've discovered a little over 200 homes that are charged an at-door fee for basically curbside collection. So we'd like to stop that. So the consultant suggested that we go with this. We will give you a list of only those lanes that are exempt, that are excluded from putting their trash at the intersection of their private lane with the public road. In other words, they'd have to do that. The hauler's not going to come up their private lane. We started looking at creating that list by asking the Center County Recycling and Refuse Authority, where don't you pick up on the lanes? And that was the list that I shared with College Township and the other townships and said, do you have any feedback on this information? We talked a lot with the different township managers and and the COG staff determined that we needed to revise that and go outside of the consultant's recommendation. So what we revised it to is, and this went out today to everybody, but it went out to the managers last week. It says, the contractor shall be advised that some of the customers who currently receive at-door service reside on private lanes. The contractor shall provide curbside service at the end of the driveways to those homes on all public roads and all private lanes. The contractor shall provide a suitable collection vehicle for use on private lanes or small public roads. Private lanes excluded from curbside collection will be at the sole discretion of Center Region COG. So this way, instead of us saying, here's our list of excluded lanes, we will say, you do them all, and if there's one that you absolutely feel you can't service, you need to come to us. So that's how we've sort of tried to make this work better. The point is, under the current contract, the hauler gets to make this decision.
Right.
And we need to take that back and make the decisions ourselves.
Shelley, if you could just state your name and position for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Shelley Matos, Center Region COG Refuse and Recycling Program Administrator.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything else to say, or we go to questions?
No, we can go to questions.
Okay, Anthony?
The only question that I had, and no, thanks Shelley, and thanks for that as well, is I'm only noting, I live on a private lane, so, and not just for me, but we do have, not necessarily the hauler, and so forth, but because it's a private lane, we have to pay for the snow removal service. And I can tell you that if the snow's not removed on my lane, we don't get mail that day, we don't get trash picked up that day, we don't get emergency vehicles come up that day. So I don't know if there's something in that clause or just in the back, and we'll say on the back of your napkin, that where if the hauler's making this decision, because obviously we have USPS that makes the decision, FedEx, UPS, I'm talking about me on the private lane, they make that determination that if they can't make it because I'm up on a slope, if they can't come up that hill, they're not coming up that hill and we don't get anything that day. I would imagine some of the other private lanes are similar, whether they're going to one house. I'm on a private lane with 6 homes, so there is a difference. It's a community, it's a small development, if you will. But yeah, if we don't have it maintained, we don't get any services.
Right, and I think that's an issue, but not what, the hauler can create the next clause in the specifications is that they can create a waiver for any damage to that road. And if you 6 people decide not to sign that waiver, then they're not going to come up the road. So we've allowed them that language as well. But in terms of servicing it in the winter, yeah, that's an issue. That's one reason that we are requiring them to have a smaller vehicle that maybe could navigate a little bit. For some of the lanes, private roads that are really problematic, and there aren't any in College that I'm aware of, we have determined a separate location for just during those kinds of weather events. When the road is too muddy, sometimes they just haven't put gravel on it for years and it gets really muddy in the snow, or when it's really really snow covered or ice covered, because sometimes those lanes, the ice stays longer because they're not paved. So we've determined a location for those residents to use, and they can all put their refuse there. So we have some solutions that we can work on.
Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, the biggest question I had, I think you already answered. I have just a couple. And that was, what are we to focus on tonight? And it sounds like you've made a more recent revision
Yes.
to the RFP that kind of puts that decision-making process off until a contract is awarded, and then you sit down, and then you might come back to us and ask for more. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Right. I would not be, we've put it to it's the the COG's sole discretion. But that doesn't mean it's my sole discretion.
Okay, so for
Right.
tonight, what you're really looking for is our comments or endorsement on that approach versus what's been bouncing back and forth for
Right.
months.
Right. We're going to not go with the providing
Okay.
them a list. We're not going to provide that separate appendix with the list.
Okay.
It's too many if we start with the list that the authority doesn't service.
Oh, no,
because I was shocked to
agree.
see that many on theirs, quite frankly, shocked.
This is a good change. I think it certainly seems to simplify tonight's discussion, at least the focus of the discussion. So given that, then just a few quick comments and questions. Just out of curiosity, since you have the floor, how does College Township compare to the other municipalities that are included in this in number of homes on private streets that?
Much lower.
Much lower.
What we identified was if we had gone with all the private lanes where the recycling authority does not pick up the recycling at the house, it would be 43 homes not getting service from the refuse contractor. And we would never have gone with all of it. Like I said, what they're doing is very different from the hauler because they're hauling that trailer. So that's the issue with them. And when they started picking up recycling back in 1992, they determined that they would service no private lanes. So almost all of them are bringing their recycling down, even if the refuse hauler is going up. So that's another issue for us to look at with them, but they're not covered under this RFP. They're covered under a memorandum of understanding. So that's not being opened up right now.
Okay. Just a few other, thank you, by the way. And lest I forget, thank you to the staff and to the elected officials who made the effort to balance service with a more competitive bid, or more competitive solicitation process. I'm quite content with the prices we've been getting. You have matrices that show the cost before we started, and it's a wonderful deal, regardless of what people say. But kudos to everybody who's making this effort, because it's hard. You know, the tighter you make the RFP, the less competitive it's going to be. It's a game.
Yes, that's right.
But then the comment that I have is, in the end, we're going to end up with some private streets that aren't going to be as well served as the public. But I'm okay with that, because people have chosen to live on private streets, and as Anthony said, there's conditions that come with that. The good news is that about 10 years ago, this township changed the ordinance so that a private road must be built to the same spec as a public road. So there's very little incentive going forward for developers to build these skinny driveways that cause these problems.
Yeah.
So it's encouraging to know that we're already on the low end of the spectrum when it comes to that, and there ain't going to be any more. I mean, you can build a private road, but it's going to be built to the same spec as the public, and the spec is what's causing the problem, unless, of course, it's snow. But, you know, grade, curvature, width, all that's going to be the same as a public. So for the residents of College Township, I think that's good news.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I had, Dustin. If that's, I support the language that you presented tonight, or the change you presented tonight, compared to what I thought we were going to be discussing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we heard, I
Tonight.
mean, there was both the comments from College Township, but also all of the other managers weighed in. I got a lot of information from the other townships on specific roads, specific lanes that they knew information on. So we also have a really nice, and I've been driving around, and so we have a really nice database on all of these private lanes. When the hauler comes and says, well, we'd like to knock off these 50, I can say, well, you know, 45 of them, I know there's a turnaround, I know there's a cul-de-sac, I know it's paved, you know. So I've got that information now.
And then before that ultimate decision is made, there'll be conversation back to
Absolutely.
town. Then
Absolutely.
I'm fine there.
Okay, thank you. Rich?
Right. Overall, I like the concept of creating competition, opening, but because it is mandatory, you know, we need to accommodate those oddballs, situations and everything. So it's sounding, what I'm hearing is that we're having an opportunity for that. So that's a critical piece for me. One of the other ones is moving to the regional control versus the hauler decision. Yeah, I'm not going to do that and everything. But I still think I'm not sure how you're going to address it or whatever, but the service, okay, I can't get there today, I'm not coming until next week. That's not that doesn't seem reasonable either. Now, but with that said, if you're always having a problem with the same development, that needs to be addressed as well and everything. So I don't know if there's a mechanism in your discussions to handle that. And then finally, to Anthony's piece about education, yeah, people hate change. and so a brochure, they don't read a lot. So it's going to have to be repetitive and multi-channel and all that.
YouTube video.
Yeah, so there'll be multi-channel, everything. It's going to be much more than a brochure and everything. So CNET ads, you can have a whole YouTube ads or shows for all of that, but it'll still happen. So we need to be prepared that's going to come and nicely try to educate again.
It's a lot of changes, but these are
as the committee has determined, very important things to do to make it more competitive, more attractive, and to hopefully get as low a price as we can.
Right.
The committee certainly recognizes that that price is going to be higher than it is. We all know that, but keeping it as low as we can is what we're after.
My fear is you're going to do all these things and you're still not going to get the competition that you need to really move the market. So, but I hope I'm wrong.
Hopefully, whoever does submit a proposal won't know that there's no competition.
Well, you got to get submittals. That's been a problem. We've only had one, maybe two.
We had one last time.
That doesn't lead to.
Well, the good news is we've been having these committee meetings, and we've had at least 2 other haulers.
Oh, good.
In most of the meetings.
Good.
They've been virtual, but they've been there.
Good.
So there's other haulers following our process.
Good.
And again, I also hope that releasing this request for proposals on Penn bid will help us to receive those proposals as well.
Good. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Well, no, thank you. Excellent information. And again, taking the action between the time the conversation started and this evening, I think it's made the conversation much easier, as you pointed out, Eric, and the understanding. I don't have any questions or further comments.
Yeah, just underscoring the point, and appreciate you being here tonight, both of you, and your actions so far to address the equity concern that Adam raised. I think it's an important one. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as you continue to go through the RFP, if there's places in particular where you see that potential for an inequity for folks on private lanes or whatever it may be, by all means, we're going to lean into make the services equitable as possible for everyone and keep those decisions rested at COG and with the municipality input. We know it better than they do, as you've framed up very well, Shelley. So just underscoring those points. So.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to staff informatives. Does anybody wish to highlight or bring anything up? If not, I have one.
I'm just going to call your attention to a couple things in the packet there. Obviously, Comcast and their update on price changes. The sustainability report from Constellation, they're our current provider. We just did an extension with them as well. It's worth a look to see kind of what their model looks like. And then timely for our discussion moving forward on workforce housing, we included an article that kind of touches on the larger national issue with housing affordability. So just some points of information for council.
Just a light reading.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to point out was the workforce housing one.
Sorry, stepped on your test.
I'm always interested in the Comcast, the annual or semi-annual Comcast increases. I couldn't help but notice that the gigabyte service was actually staying the same or going down, and the gigabyte times 2 was going down to the point where it's only $5 more than, if I read this correctly, for $5 more you can get twice the internet. I mean, is that a typo or?
Twice the speed, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I noted, I saw that, it caught my eye. Normally prices go up. In this case, the gigabyte times 2 went down to the point where it's only $5 more than gigabyte. So isn't 2 gigabytes for $5 more a better deal than?
I don't know, maybe they're trying to compete against an up and coming another big franchise.
Got some competition in the market, as we just kind of touched on.
The other thing that's putting pressure on them from the internet side is the proliferation of 5G and home internet through those providers.
So that could have been driving the price down for the 2 gig because T-Mobile's offering that type speed already wirelessly.
Okay. Anything further? All right. We have one more action.
Move to adjourn.
All right. We adjourn.
It's been a long time.